What is up, guys? Welcome back to Mainly Movies, the channel where we talk about, well, mainly movies. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 1980 classic Stanley Kubrick horror film, The Shining. The Shining is based off a Stephen King novel and stars Jack Nicholson and Shelly Duvall. So this is the story about a family who have to caretake for the Overlook Hotel, and for the whole time they stay there they become very isolated, and Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, gets a bad case of cabin fever.
Completely normal individual. But at some point during the winter, he must have suffered some kind of a complete mental breakdown. He ran amok and killed his family with an axe.
This is one of my all-time favorite horror movies, and is a lot of horror movie fans' favorite horror movie because it's very, very intense, and there's also a kind of beauty to the film. The design of the Overlook Hotel, the interior and exterior of the hotel itself, looks absolutely beautiful. Obviously, Stanley Kubrick shot composition. This is probably one of the most visually pleasing Kubrick films that we have, besides 2001 and A Clockwork Orange. He uses colour brilliantly and gets the best performance out of everyone in this film. And despite some of the troubles that Stanley Kubrick and Shelley Duvall went through on this project and some of the creative differences, I'm not going to get too much into that because you probably have heard quite a bit about it. This movie is still one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And it's such a building film. This movie builds to its third act, which throughout the whole movie there's this kind of running tension throughout the whole movie. And in a way it feels like a ticking time bomb, because from the start of the second act, I guess, is when we get to see the change of Jack Torrance, and that's when the movie becomes the build-up. Jack Nicholson playing the character Jack Torrance, he did a great job. This is probably up there with his performance in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There's not much I can say about this character that hasn't already been said. And Danny Lloyd playing Danny Torrance was great, and I really am looking forward to seeing what Ewan McGregor can do as that kid, all grown up. But some of the shots with him when he actually visually sees some disturbing material, it shocks you to your core, and it still does today. When you see that shot of the two twins and then that one quick little glimpse of the bodies that have been mutilated and his face, there's just this sense of dread, and the dread continues throughout the rest of the film. I think that Kubrick did a great job at displaying that dread and making you feel it. Honestly, I'm not a massive fan of Stephen King's adaptations. Usually they are very bland and they don't have much depth to them, but this is probably the most disturbing and the most gripping adaptation that has ever been made. I honestly can't find any negatives with this movie because it achieves every goal that it wants to. It is a masterpiece of horror, and I feel like if you haven't seen it, you most definitely have to see it, especially with Dr. Sleep coming out, which is already out, which I'll get the chance to see soon. There's one really intense sequence which I love every time I get up to it, which is between Jack Torrance and the bartender, Lloyd, I believe the name of the character is. Just the way he talks to him and his smile and his mannerisms, it's really, really creepy, and Jack Nicholson really knew just how to portray this character, and Stanley Kubrick did a great job at directing Jack Nicholson to create this kind of, in a way, a monster. Now, this movie doesn't really explain The Shining too much and what it actually is, and I feel like if I look carefully at it and if I study the movie I will find out, but I actually haven't got the time. So I'm kind of hoping that Dr. Sleep in a way explains the lore and what The Shining actually is. That's not really a negative with the film, because I feel like it has to kind of be ambiguous in this film, whereas Dr. Sleep, because it's about Danny Torrance who actually has The Shining, I feel it needs to explain it a bit more. This movie, because it's more about the family and the claustrophobic isolation and the destruction of the character Jack Torrance, I feel like it needed to focus more on that than explaining what The Shining is. And it did a really good job at doing all of those things. If you haven't seen The Shining, definitely watch The Shining. It is a great classic horror film directed by Stanley Kubrick, who is one of the greatest film directors of all time. So definitely check it out if you haven't seen it yet. I honestly love this movie, and I'm going to give it, and I'm glad to give it, a 10 out of 10. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. So stay tuned, and I'll see you guys next time.